Yes, now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Rants YouTube channel. I'm not going to give you the whole shtick about how I'm behind on this video. We need to be used to it at this point, let's be honest. So, Monday Night Raw. John Cena actually kicked off the show, coming out and cutting a promo. And obviously, he cut a promo on like just being there in his last year, but mainly cut a promo on Brock Lesnar and saying he'd be ready for him. This is all just promo for the Lesnar build-up. I don't like to remember promos, because it's hard to remember every word someone says. And also, if I repeat it back, it might not have the same significance. But I'm always repping Cena. Can't wait for Cena Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. This is a match that I absolutely do not mind being on Cena's retirement tour. It's actually quite fitting given the history Lesnar and Cena have. So this is perfect. I love it. And I heard they're opening the show at WrestlePalooza. Now that I look at it, I feel like that's the right move. It's not a mid-card match, but maybe the main event should be Seth and Becky versus Punk and Lee. So opener might be the perfect spot for it, actually. And I don't know why I didn't see this coming. I just kind of did not see that coming. But I'm happy it's happening regardless. Anyways, let's move on to everything else that happened in the night. Obviously, we know last week Lyra Valkyria lost to Raquel Rodriguez. Well, this week she wanted to go at Roxanne Perez and she got the win. And obviously, this is like only a 2-week feud thing, but then the Judgment Day started beating down Lyra Valkyria. And here comes the long-term storytelling, because from Bayley and Lyra competing for the Intercontinental title, then teaming up at WrestleMania, Bayley getting dropped out, Becky taking the title, Bayley coming back and competing alongside Lyra for that Intercontinental Championship, turning on each other when they both don't win, Bayley going and saying, now Bayley's back, and she saved Lyra Valkyria's arse after Lyra Valkyria had actually been concerned, despite the fact saying she didn't care for Bayley. And Bayley saved her, and she came back and she was hugging all the fans like the old hugger version of Bayley. As we know, Bayley's been in her head with previous versions of herself, whether it was the hugger Bayley or whether it was the role model, the ding dong, the goat of lockdown Bayley. And personally, goat of lockdown is my favourite. But she came back and she decided to hug everyone. And we thought, oh, here's Hugger Bayley. And she ran away, but she completely did not acknowledge Lyra Valkyria. And it wasn't until later in the night, Lyra Valkyria went and knocked on Bayley's door to be like, what's up? And Bayley absolutely snapped at her. And it was lockdown version of Bayley all over again. It was right there. Bang. Snapped. Wasn't having none of it. So I'm kind of interested to see which route Bayley goes down. Or maybe there's a middle ground and she develops a whole new version of herself. And completely revolutionizes herself. I don't know, but I'm interested, and I definitely 100% want to see Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria again. Why? Because they put on bangers every time. Every time Bayley and Lyra are in a ring, it is chemistry to the maximum. So I'm absolutely excited to see that happen one more time. Some other news that happened, we had Kofi Kingston rematch Penta. As we know, Kofi Kingston was the only one out of the New Day, and that's including Grayson Waller, to beat Penta, but it wasn't without, cheating and using cheap tactics, so they did a rematch. They're still walking around with their petition to ban the Mexican Destroyer, calling it a pile driver, and it wouldn't be far from the truth. It basically is. I like the thought behind it. It does bring some legitimacy to it, because if you think from a real standpoint, the execution may be different, but the landing is almost similar. So it does make sense, and that's when Penta used the Mexican Destroyer to pin Kofi Kingston and actually won. And despite the New Day trying to get involved, Penta still beat all of them up by himself and left there completely fine and unscathed. I mean, at least they're doing something with Penta. At least they're doing something with the New Day. But it's about time we take it serious. And it looks like we are, as the New Day brutalised Penta backstage. And the War Raiders fought them off. Obviously, the War Raiders just hate the New Day. We're probably going to get some 6-man tag at some point. Or maybe this is the New Day becoming very, very serious as a tag team. Let's just say. And maybe Penta might be out for a couple of weeks and he may have a big comeback. Who knows what's going to happen. But I'm glad WWE are utilising their mid-card talent while a lot of their main talent are out. It's good shit. Do you not agree? I think it. Anyways, let's talk Judgment Day. Let's talk World Tag Team Champions, one of them being Finn Balor, and the Intercontinental Championship and AAA Mega Champion, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Now, obviously, Finn Balor said Dom should do it by himself at Triple A. He wanted to see how he could fend for himself, because Dom has been making friends and getting really comfortable with El Grande Americano. And Finn's not liked it, because since Liv Morgan's been gone, Finn Balor's been able to gain control of the Judgment Day and have them under his spell. So Finn's a bit mad with Dom since he won that title. And he actually confronted him on Monday Night Raw. And JD, obviously being Finn's boy, backed him up. And as they stormed out, Rusev came in. Obviously, we know Rusev beat Penta thanks to the New Day and is the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. So he let Dom know that he's next. And to be honest, like I said for Rusev Penta, it's not a match I would have thought of, but I'm glad it happened. And now that I'm looking at it, Rusev Dom is not a feud I would have pictured, but I'm here for it. I'm actually here for it. I'm liking how WWE are building Rusev. Like, WWE treats every superstar now as if they are a potential star in the making, as if they are someone we need to build to make serious. Well, almost everyone. You know, we've still got Natalya, who they treat like shit, and Otis and all that, but I like how when a star comes back and fresh, they go, when they have fresh ground to work on, they don't just go, man, we'll chuck you in the talent pool, we'll just treat you like everyone else. No, they actually try to give them a good start. And that's what they're doing for Rusev. I mean, Rusev is a decorated wrestler himself in WWE. He was, I believe, only United States champion. I don't think he was ever NXT champion, but he had multiple United States title reigns, and that's more than a lot of superstars could say, especially in that era, especially from Vince McMahon. So this version of Rusev, who is much more developed now as a wrestler and as a character, and can speak English a lot better, so might be able to do a lot better promos, he could achieve some shit, and I'm here for it. So I want to see it. I definitely do want to see it. And speaking of El Grande Americano, he had another match with Dragon Lee, as you know, the feud's going on and all that. But this is where we finally get some story, right? As we know, the original El Grande Americano, Chad Gable was injured, so they've obviously put it on Ludwig Kaiser, and since then they kind of took the mick, having a bunch of other El Grande Americanos showing up, who we know are Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. But there's multiple of them, and they've showed their face a couple of times, but we've had no explanation. We've had no follow-up. Well, in this match between Dragon Lee and El Grande Americano, one showed up, who I'm just going to say was Pete Dunne probably, and AJ Styles came down to chase him out there, and he chased him out there. But then there was the third one, which I'm assuming is Tyler Bate, and it cost Dragon Lee the match. And maybe we might actually get a faction of the El Grande Americanos, and I'd kind of like it. I would, because it's something to do with these wrestlers that they're not treating properly. So let's see it. Do you know what I mean? I'd be happy to see it. And I'm happy to see Dragon Lee get put on TV matches all the time. They built Dragon Lee in NXT as the next Rey Mysterio. And when they brought him up to the main roster, they put him with Rey Mysterio and the LWO and built him as the next Rey Mysterio, just to do nothing with him for a year. Now he's doing his own thing, and I like it because he's putting on bangers. And I'll be honest, I looked at this match card and I thought, Dragon Lee, El Grande Americano, that's going to be a banger. Lyra Valkyria, Roxanne Perez, that's going to be an absolute heater. But no, what was Match of the Night? As you know, that's my new segment, Match of the Night. Match of the Night, for once, was the main event, right? And obviously, we know the shenanigans. We know that LA Knight, Jey Uso, they'll fight, and then Braun and Braun will come out, and then they'll fight, they'll have a match, and then it'll end in a fight, and someone gets beat up. That's how it happens every week. Only this time, LA Knight and Jey Uso kind of calling each other out, still beefing. So when Adam Pearce gave LA Knight the option to pick a tag team partner to face Braun and Bronson later on in the main event, LA Knight picked Jimmy Uso. Why? Because he wanted to stick it to Jey Uso. That's why. And then, you know, after last week, he speared him after the tag team match. And Jey was furious about it, and Jay's like, you can't pick Jimmy, that's not fair. He's like, that's my brother, we're going to handle business WrestlePalooza. You can't be doing that. And Jey was trying to find Jimmy to tell Jimmy not to accept it. LA Knight went to Jimmy Uso, and Jimmy Uso, being the good brother that he is, turned it down. And then, once Jey had found Jimmy, before letting Jimmy speak, Jey had told him, you're not taking that, don't take that match. Jimmy got a bit pressed because why is Jey telling him what to do? Why is Jey coming at him with all this attitude? Said he's not wearing a Nuno Fala, says he's not Roman Reigns, then went and decided, you know what, I will tag with LA Knight. And he did. And LA Knight Jimmy Uso versus Braun and Bronson was a great match. That was probably match of the night. I mean, they were all on a similar level. There was nothing blowing me away that night, but there was nothing that was really terrible. Like Penta, Kofi Kingston, Lyra Valkyria, Roxanne Perez, El Grande Americano, Dragon Lee, Braun and Bronson versus Jimmy and LA Knight. Crazy. Good shit. But then as the night closed, instead of Jay super kicking him and spearing him after he saved them, he said, you know what, I'll just shake your hand, LA Knight, we'll squash this, it's over. And they did squash it until LA Knight turned him around and hit him with the BFT, and people actually booed it. It's crazy that Jay did this last week and people didn't turn on him, but now people might turn on LA Knight for this. And this could be a route for LA Knight to go down to be the anti-hero. Even though he kind of already is an anti-hero, he could delve deeper into that. Maybe even a heel. I don't know. But it is interesting seeing two faces feuding because, like I always say, face versus face, it's something. Do you know what I mean? It works. And that's how we'll close the show. Now, it's not the last thing I'm going to talk about, because the last thing I'm going to talk about is probably the main event of WrestlePalooza. And that is Seth and Becky versus Punk and AJ. Now, they had another face-to-face, and last week they sold it as if it was amazing that they're going face-to-face, as if they didn't do it last week. And they didn't do it when AJ came back and all this and whatever. And there was a bunch of insult matches and all this, you know, basic back-and-forth promos. But the main thing to take away from this was the fact that AJ and Punk were able to get Seth and Becky into a corner where their overconfidence and pride stepped on each other's toes for a moment. You see, Seth tried to quote what CM Punk said when AJ Lee came back, and he said, AJ, I can't hit a lady, but I have someone who will, meaning Becky. And Becky kind of looked as if, no, I don't want that, because she's felt the smoke of AJ in the last few weeks and she decided she didn't want it. Then they were arguing, and Punk and AJ looked like the proper good couple because they were just sat there laughing while Seth and Becky wouldn't get along. Becky walked out on Seth and it looked like it was storming off and it wasn't going great until Seth pushed CM Punk to provoke him, made CM Punk chase him round. Becky ran into the ring, hit a manhandle slam on AJ Lee. CM Punk couldn't do nothing to save her because the damage was done. And turns out it was all a plan all along. Seth and Becky outsmarted Punk and AJ Lee, and they got me, to be fair. So that was actually pretty good work, and it shows the momentum Seth and Becky have, given that they're A, more current and fresher, but B, they're the champions, and they're the younger ones who are going to think they're the power couple, and WrestlePalooza, the match, will be where the actual ones who are will win. If that is Seth and Becky, great. I think it should be, personally. But if it's CM Punk and AJ Lee, fine. It is what it is. But that was a better face-to-face than last week, personally, I think. I think this worked a lot better. The promo was better. The ending of it was better. It made more sense. But anyways, let me know what you thought. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.